Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's the Untitled
We're back.
Sign Show. Wow, Andy, how long has it been since we've been on the air?
I don't know. I was thinking about it during the titles. I think it's been over 2 months.
Over 2 months. Wow. Yeah, we had a brief update, I think, after Pride Month, but that was very brief. We are pulling out all the stops today. We have a great show. And it's great to see you. Actually, I see you all the time, but it is still great to see you with that TETV bug over there. Folks, wherever you're watching from, go ahead and comment, like, subscribe, share, help get the word out. We know things are a little bit different now in the post-pandemic. Maybe people are getting dinner right now, or maybe they're pouring a cocktail. Shout out in the comments. We'd love to hear where you're at, where you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say we're not out of the pandemic yet, but we're certainly not locked down anymore. I mean, we're free to travel about the country, and some of us can go to Europe if you're vaccinated, and if you are not vaccinated, y'all better get on that.
Yeah, we definitely encourage vaccination too, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. We have a doctor waiting in the green room.
He's a real doctor.
Hey man, hey Andrew, how you doing, man? Thanks for watching. That's fine. So I mean, first up, we know the audience takes a little bit of time to build. Just wanted to talk about TETV a little bit, and just kind of acknowledge that Andy and I, we started this on Twitter. I was actually we're doing a training manual right now, and I pulled up the tweet of just how we started this show originally, over a year ago. Well, much more than a year ago, about a year and a half ago, and where it's become. At TETV over the years, we've had over 60 volunteers that have been volunteering, which is amazing. And then, we had a lot of momentum going, which was really fantastic. All these shows were going once a week on a lot of the shows. We had about 3 shows a week. And then, everyone kind of came out of lockdown. Everyone's kind of confused. Everyone's in the summer haze. And obviously, we don't expect people to sit in front of their screens for 3 days a week and watching hour and a half content. That's not really, that's not really viable. And we don't expect that. So we, here, at least for this show, we're planning to do the show at least once a month, but we're not going to be doing it every single week. We're being a little bit more flexible, and it may also not be on a Monday. We plan on showcasing projects. And when it comes to that, now that everyone's out of the, traveling again, it does become a little difficult to kind of coordinate everybody's scheduling. So, if we want to have somebody to come in here and talk about Meow Wolf or Disney or Universal, talk about a project, us saying, hey, you have to be here on a Monday at 7 o'clock or 4 o'clock, we want to be more flexible with that. We have several projects that we're planning on showing in the future on the docket, but it had been a little bit too long, and some of those shows kept getting pushed back because of scheduling. So we wanted to pull a show together just to talk about all the crazy news that are here. But TETV is here. It's great. We thank all of our volunteers. We have a show at least going on every week. You can check out A Day in the Life or Unsung Heroes, 2 great shows. Like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And we appreciate you sharing the word and staying engaged. And we will be here providing cool, interesting content and engaging content for now, for as long as we're doing it. There's no plans of taking us down. We're going to be here. Which is exciting and really cool. Now, also, we've had a lot of people say, hey, we wish, you guys would be a podcast. I'm going to work now. I'd rather listen to your content than watch it on YouTube or Facebook. We hear you. That's in the works. So, we have to work out the details, but you can expect our content being released in audio form due to popular demand soon. It's summer 2021 or fall 2021, whatever it is. Who knows? We'll get that all workings out, and we'll have, we have a huge backlog now, hours worth of content. You could sit in your room for, I would say, at least 5 days straight and just listen to TETV content that entire time.
I
We
think
have
much longer than that.
yeah, which is incredible, which is really amazing. So we're looking forward to that and getting in everybody's hands and all these engaging discussions. But it's also interesting. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and I rarely do that. I was listening to it's called the Tomorrow Society, and there's a lot of podcasts out there that have really great insights, really great guests. They have Imagineers, they have whatever on their shows, and we're just different here a little bit. We're more of an industry focused show. We're Andy and I are in the industry. Everybody that's part of TV is in the industry, and so also we don't want to just become another podcast. There's nothing wrong with this podcast I was listening to. It's very insightful, but we're looking at things from an industry perspective, as opposed to fans and what the fans may be interested in. And now, if you're a fan, I'm both a theme park fan and a connoisseur and work in the industry. So we're not going to be taking our content there. We're going to stay laser focused on quality content that is focused towards people in the industry. So that has always been our mantra. And where that goes, we'll see. Come be a part of it. We're excited to have it. There's a lot of great things in the future for us. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Andy, do you have anything to add? I know I ramble all the time.
I couldn't possibly.
All right. Well, with that, no, Andy, go ahead. I can take a bite of my chicken here if you can say something.
No, I mean, everything Patrick said is absolutely true. We're looking at, obviously the Untitled Entertainment Design Show we've been on a break, but we're back, and I think this is going to be the start of a new chapter certainly in our show and the network as we pivot from tons and tons of content to keep everybody entertained and informed, when everyone's just stuck at home, to something a little bit more flexible. I think is going to be fun and good for everybody. But I'm looking forward to it. And certainly we do have a lot of really cool stuff coming up.
All right.
Tell me about that painting in the background on your wall. What is that? Not the Mickey one, the other one. It's like the universe.
It's the universe. My grandma painted for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, and now to this painting, the announcement of the new Star Wars hotel down in Florida at the Disney World property down there. I think, talk about a new chapter. This is definitely a new chapter in the themed experience entertainment. I'm really excited about it just from a conceptual standpoint. I've been, I know I'm not the only one who's been thinking about what a fully immersive boutique experience would be like. I know that people like Tony Baxter have been thinking about things like this for the last, no joke, 30 or 40 years. What would a 2-hour Pirates of the Caribbean experience be like? Things like that for much more focused boutique experiences. But I think that Star Wars is a perfect fit for this. And since enough people are familiar enough with the cruise ship model and how to consume the cruise ship experience, and I don't think it's certainly not just going to be a hotel where you just park your stuff and sleep and then drag the kids out of bed to the parks at 6 a.m. For 18 hours. I don't think this certainly isn't that. This is, you go to be in the story unlike anything that's ever existed really anywhere before. I don't know of any hotel overnight experience. Can you think of any overnight fully immersive experikuses? I can't.
Not at this scale and quality that we're going to see. Well, and that's kind of I have a couple friends that are working on this, and I mean, big kudos to them. I know they're really in the trenches right now, but all the buzz around this is really big. And if you look, there's a gentleman right there. He's kind of going like this, and I think he's saying, "Don't tell mom how much this experience costs." Am I right?
I'm pretty sure mom knows.
Yeah. CJ, go to the next slide. So this kind of rocked everybody. Look, we knew it was going to be expensive. It's just equatable with going on a cruise line. They're about over 100 keys. Fully immersive experience. We presume that entertainment's going to be off the, tons of entertainment around you at all times. But, these prices definitely, kind of rocked the internet a little bit.
I mean, I wasn't terribly surprised because, I've had a lot of conversations with friends. I have friends that are working on this as well. And, I've spent most of the summer here in the studio with Jason McManus working on some shows, and we talked about it a lot because we're avid cruisers as well. And, this is about, I had figured it was going to be $37.50 was going to be the bottom end. That was like my over under for like starting price. So it's about $1,000 more than that, which I was a little bit surprised about, but like I wasn't surprised to see it be in this sort of realm, considering what you're getting. And I think that part of it is a barrier to entry. It's not for everybody, kind of thing.
When you're going to build something like this exclusive, with 100 keys and that much patrolling and that much this and that and the other, you're really I only think these prices are going to go up. I don't think you can
absolutely.
And so I know people out there and they're like, oh, I can't, look, obviously if you can't afford this, that's a lot of money.
99% of the people that go to the parks in Florida and in Anaheim can't afford this, or, really don't want to spend that kind of money, even if they can't afford it. It's for hardcore, rich Star Wars fans. There's a lot of those. I really do. I think it's what's going to be funny is that I think adults are going to outnumber kids by a lot. I think, I certainly, if I had like an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, or like an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, there's no way I would spend that kind of money to give them a 2-night experience like this that they'll just forget.
Yeah. That's very interesting. When you think, like if you look at it, like what some of the bungalows cost over the water, they're within this price range. Granted, they can fit more people, but the Four Seasons hotels, depending on the day of the week, same thing. You can get it's this similar price. It's not, look, you can get a standard room in the middle of August or whatever, or middle of January, but this is kind of like the elite pricing, And
when you look at like a Disney cruise line, 3-night cruise now is almost $2,000 for a balcony cabin, and that's for double occupancy. So it's kind of in line with that. It's a luxury experience.
And if they really pull it off, and the word gets out that, oh wow, this really was an incredible, they pulled it off, they did it right. This is one of, has kind of the buzz that Sleep No More did or whatever in industry, that exclusivity of 100 keys for every 2 days, 100 keys are like how many hotel rooms you have. That's just industry lingo. That's going to be, there might be a waiting list. It's going to be like a Club 33 situation, where people
I don't know if it'd be Club 33. There's no membership model here, but
it's just the wait list of people that are demanding to try to do the experience. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I think that's definitely for sure. I think, it's going to be like a cruise where like you start, you look at it a year in advance and you put down a deposit.
Yeah. So, well, I think we talked about it enough. Obviously, I didn't get that much sticker shock. I think the prices are going to go up.
I agree.
If they pull off a great experience, I'm sure they will. Hopefully they will. And we wish them the best. So, Andy, I just came back from Vegas. I just came back from like a 15-people trip. Everything you shouldn't do. We went from one hot spot to another. The mask mandate was in place, and everyone on our trip was vaccinated, and we all made it out okay. One person actually, full disclosure, actually did test positive for COVID after the experience, but nobody else did. So get vaccinated, and we took care on our trip to do what we could. Obviously, everybody has their own personal comfort levels. Everyone has to kind of live their life how they're going to do it. Please get vaccinated. I would say that was a pretty big testament to the point that 95% of our group just fine, no issues at all, right? And we were around this person who tested positive. Everyone had to get tested and all that, and lockdown. It all worked out just fine. But while I was there, we were over there at a little bit interesting time. We were actually there as they were implementing the mask mandate. First off, anybody that's listening to me goes to Vegas, go see Carrot Top. Andy, I will drag you to see Carrot Top. Have you seen Carrot Top?
Only at the Golden Tiki, sitting there sipping, sadly drinking his drink by himself.
It is. Everyone was very cynical about this when I put it on the itinerary. It was hilarious. Highly recommend Garrett. I'm telling you, the most skeptic people, Alex Craven. When I told him that we were going to Carrot Top, he's like, really? Yeah, okay. I was going to skip it too. No, everybody loved it. I looked over, everyone's laughing, having a great time. So I know it sounds crazy. Carrot Top was hilarious, fantastic. Then we went to I saw Meow Wolf. So you've seen Meow Wolf, I've saw Meow Wolf. What now we can talk about it. And folks, just we'll try to keep it spoiler free. What was your takeaway from this experience, the Omega Mart and Area 15?
Well, I responded a little bit differently to it than you did. I don't know. I was totally overwhelmed by it. I mean, we spent about 3 hours there, and then I just had to sort of leave and sit down and decompress a little bit, because I got really deep into it and deeply involved in the story. And I was one of those people that was up in the corporate headquarters, seeing,
making phone calls,
digging through the files and shit, give me this, pulling up the big plexiglass things and trying to solve the puzzles. And I'll tell you what, it was I was fully invested in it and bought in completely. And me either. No, I thought it was masterfully conceived and executed. I enjoyed it immensely. For me, it's going to be a must visit every trip to Vegas, I think. Because I still feel like I didn't see all of it, and I'm sure that I'll see something new every time that I go. And I didn't get to go to the bar, this sort of not so secret bar there, and try any of the specialty beverages, which I love to do. But the line was just there were 50 people in line for a 5-top bar. So anyway, no, I thought it's fantastic. I think that I love, as one of the sort of co-founders of Disneyland, I love absurdist, abstract, surreal comedy and subversive kind of stuff like that, all the different products and things like that. And I just loved it. I just thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, we went there and started with a group of 15. I was there for about 2 hours. I was really just in awe, walking around, kind of whoa, and taking it all in.
It's a lot of production.
What's that?
It's a lot of production. From your perspective, is that you've been a field art director and creative director for many years now. It's I know you look at it and see all the work that goes into it as well as I do. It's just there's so much that has been produced for that space.
I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but just the products they have in Omega Mart, the actual supermarket part of it is enough to blow your mind. And apparently, fun fact, they went to, so there's a ton of products that are actually in the store, part of the experience
that you can buy.
Yeah, and you can buy them all. Yes, you can buy it. And they went to the local schools and had children help brainstorm attractions, which is really cool. Product names. So there's all sorts of goofy names. Highly recommend. Yeah, I think you need to experience this. You're right. As someone that's been in the field, out in the trenches, the amount of work that went into it that you can really tell that actually faces the guests, super impressive. I only scratched the surface. I was there for 2 hours, and that would be a thing where I would just go sit in a room and kind of zone in on the art and the experience around me, and appreciate that there's a 30-minute cycle of lighting effects in a room. You know what I mean?
I was doing that too.
Yeah. So I
watched the entire training room video in that break room. I watched the entire thing.
Yeah. Oh, shout out. Here we go. Melody, the last level Mega Mart. So really great experience. I scratched the surface, and Andy, you and I need to go there together, and you got to I'll be your sidekick. You can be oh, here's the file. We have to go and make a phone call here and do this. And I'll be all right, sure, man, let's do it.
Yeah,
first thing something. No, but and of course, we have friends that are working on this project, and friends of the network. There's 2 Justins that are actually working on this, Justin Stussy and Justin Brooks. The Meow Wolf Convergence Station.
Yeah.
We have any? Yeah, here we go. So this, is out opening. I don't have the date. I think September. They sold 35,000 tickets in 24 hours, which is a huge accomplishment. Really, congratulations to the crew and folks. I think it's time to make a trip to Denver. You got Meow Wolf, you got Casa Bonita, which is a great experience. I've seen in
I still haven't been to Casa Bonita, and I can only imagine it's going to get better after Trey Parker buys it.
Yeah, I saw it. That's awesome. And then Melody made a recommendation. I highly recommend going and completing the interactive games.
Yeah.
And September 17th is the opening date of that experience. So super cool as well. Really, I mean, we're going to bring these people on. We're going to drag them on. We're going to talk about it. It's a huge, really quite a huge deal when these big, highly immersive experiences, so detailed and really breaking the mold just in the industry. So congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, I love how Meow Wolf went from scrappy band of artists, outside artists and fine artists out of Santa Fe to like a major player in the themed experience industry. I mean, they were really smart. They went out and hired a bunch of people like us who, come from, mass market themed entertainment and themed experience production. They realized that, they were in out of their depth a little bit and needed some help. And I think that was really smart of them.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's one thing to like take a bowling alley and do what you're going to do with it. It's another to try to get and build deal with ADA and all that. One thing is that one of the founder and director at Meow Wolf, his name is Vince Kadlubek, Kadlubek. He's very active on LinkedIn. I highly recommend anybody follow him and just see the things that he's saying. I'd say he's a provocateur. I've actually talked with him a little bit. Very interesting cat. Very interesting perspective. So I would highly recommend just following him on LinkedIn. I'll push that out in the private chat, and then CJ, if you can just push that out. To go follow him, because he's commenting on our industry all the time. All right, well, what do we have up next on the docket? Yes, got so much happened in a month. The legendary annual pass program at Disneyland, as we all know, was sunsetted when they were basically told you were going to be closed for upwards of a year due to the local government regulations. I don't want to care about the government regulations part. We all know it's different here in Florida. But they've relaunched the program. And, Andy, what are your thoughts? Just to give an overview for everybody knows, you have 4 different levels: Dream Key, Believe Key, Enchant Key, Imagine Key. Look, these are like they just have names they have on a hat they pull out whenever they want to do something here at Disney. And kind of the similar pricing, just you have to make park reservations in advance. And there's discounts on parking, and there's limitations between the levels of how many you can have at one time. So, Annie, just what's your experience going from, you were an annual pass holder for, 30 years?
Almost 35 years. I mean, the first annual pass that I had, I think, was $50.
Yeah.
Back in the probably late 80s, when my parents got wise to, hey, we can go and get annual passes, and just I could ride my bike there and have a good time. What's
been your relationship over the? It started out there. Go ahead. Like, what's been over the decades? Like, what's it been like? I'm very curious about how you've used it.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I was born and raised in Anaheim. I grew up in Anaheim, and certainly. My friends and I would go all the time. Sometimes we'd ride our bikes there before, I got my driver's license. And then, once I got my license, I was going, like 3 or 4 times a week. And even when I was in school, when I was at USC, we'd drive down. My friends and I, we all had annual passes. It was sort of like, when they realized how cheap they were and how close we were. I mean, because at the time in the early 90s, it didn't take you 2 hours to drive from central Los Angeles to Anaheim. It literally took about 30 or 40 minutes because traffic was just way different. Almost half as many people lived in Los Angeles at the time. That's how old I am. Yeah, I mean, we treated it much like the people in Florida do, where like it was an amenity, it was just something that was part of our lives. I was going to Disneyland, like literally 3 or 4 times a week for most of my life, up until, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, where, just, life happens and you get busy, you grow up, I guess. I just didn't go as often. I didn't want to take the time to go as often, especially since it got to be more and increasingly difficult to go in terms of like security. 9/11, I think changed operations quite a bit, added all the security elements. It's going to be interesting now. Looking at the pricing, it's like the first premier pass that I had, which is the pass for both Anaheim and Florida parks, I think was $8.99 for unlimited access to both Florida and Anaheim.
I think it was actually like $7.89. I had it.
Yeah, I didn't get it then. I didn't get it the first one. I think I got it like a couple years later when it was $8.99. Yeah. And it was it felt even cheaper because the way I would do it is I would have the Disneyland pass, which was like $3.49, and that was like the top tier.
Yeah.
And 365 days, parking included, 15% off everything for $349. And I was on payments, and then I would go and upgrade to the Premier Pass in Florida at one of the parks, and then I'd only have to pay out like $500, for the rest of the pass, and it just seemed like so cheap. And here we are with $1,400 for 365 access, to Disneyland, and you still have to make reservations. And, gone are the days forever where you can just pop in after work, pop in after class, come and go as you please, go in, have a churro and watch the castle show and go home. Those days are over. And I know in some ways I'm sad to see that go, because that was sort of a lifestyle for a lot of people, myself included, for a long time. But now it's now it's much more like vacation planning, and Disney wants you to plan your visits like a vacation, like it matters. You got some skin in the game.
Leading up to let's say the 2019. Leading up to that, how would you use that annual pass? Which tier did you have? And then I'll tell you my story about it.
2019, I had, I think I had the second highest, because I didn't, I'm not going on Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's or anything like that. So I had the one like below that. But I was going probably, I want to say, because I'm also very lucky to know quite a few Club 33 members, and pretty much I think in 2017 through 19, every single time I went to Disneyland, I was a guest of a Club 33 member, and we were going to the club, having drinks, having lunch, having dinner, like whatever. And for me, it was just like, it was all about that. Maybe we'd go on a ride, maybe we'd see Phantasm, maybe we'd see the Pyro Show, maybe we'd go on, Big Thunder or something like that. But it was very casual and not, the kind of thing where like I'd go and like have an agenda of rides and shows and characters that I wanted to see and do. So, like I said, it was the last few years leading up to the lockdown were very atypical for most park goers.
When it comes to no, fair enough.
I'm just being perfectly honest. I don't want to, pretend that I wasn't doing something else when I had that very, very privileged experience.
So yeah, fair enough. All that good. So I'll give I know we're kind of running long here already. I had a very similar kind of experience with annual pass. So I in the 90s, my family would go, back when they were maybe $70, $80 tops. Yeah. But like a one-day ticket was $23 to go. So, right. And I turned 16. I was like you. I just go pop over the park after school. I was coming from more like Laguna Beach, so it's a little bit longer of a drive. But I'd be like, I'm gonna go on California Screaming. Park closes at 6, and I get off school at 3. Right. So I'm gonna go over there and do that.
I used to go over and do my homework up at the Disney Gallery on the balcony. I would go after high school. I'd drive over and I'd hang out at the Disney Gallery on the balcony when they had a table and chairs. And I would sit there and just be like doing my homework and whatever, and talk to Beverly and everybody. And it was magical and something I'll never forget.
Yeah, and I kept up with the annual pass. I had the top tier annual pass. I think I kind of like, sometimes I wouldn't have it for whatever reason. Sometimes we would, and then we had annual passes in 2001 when California Adventure opened, and they were not doing like park hopper annual passes. You could not get an annual pass to California. We know that didn't last very long. Then they were begging people to.
I think it lasted like 3 months when they were like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do?" Park hoppers.
Yeah, everybody mandatory. Here's a free ticket, all that kind of stuff. And 9/11 happened, and annual pass holders really, they kept the parks busy during the shoulder seasons. And look, we know I'm very interested. I worked in Disneyland. I had an annual pass up until I worked there, which was in 2005, and then I haven't had a Disneyland, like an only Disneyland annual pass since then. When I left Disneyland, I then got the Premier Passport where I could go to both coasts, which since my family's from California, I'm from Orlando now. It made sense, right? I'd probably go twice a year and we just pop over to Disneyland. It wasn't a big deal when they were, $800. Now I don't even know how much those things cost, but they're, the line is not even worth it.
Oh, it doesn't exist. They canceled it.
Oh, they canceled it. Okay, so that's totally gone. So, and so long story short, we know that the Disney Annual Pass program completely changed how people use the parks. We know that during the midweek, there was a shoulder season, Monday through Friday. The park was open maybe till 7, maybe till 8. Wasn't really empty or wasn't really crowded. Nobody really cared because they didn't have that much overhead. Right now, the parks need to be packed all the time. They want people to be packed. They want them to be spending money. They want to be this. They want to be that. And there was a constant push over the years of we want to have in-park revenue. They'd rather have people in the park that are buying churros than not. But they knew that a day guest who's staying at the Grand California's per capita is a lot higher than an annual pass holder who's maybe on I know their own numbers, so I gotta be careful, but it's a lot less. But you still want people in the park. And so, sorry, go ahead.
There were over 1 million annual pass holders at the end of the program last year. Over 1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and you could tell, the parks were just choked with people every day of the week.
Well, what really the biggest thing that was the issue. It's one thing to be crowded, and we know that there's problems with that. It's another one, the parks they were built to have more than 3 people per car entering the park at once, and not 1.4, or those are kind of realish numbers. So, but whatever, it's 10 years ago. It's statute of limitations. That killed the parking lots where you would have so many cars coming in for 3 hours and then leaving. They did not design the Mickey and Friends structure to deal with that. So we know they've doubled it. So that's great. I mean, whatever, it's been a lot bigger. I've been in California since then, really utilizing the park, but canceled all these annual passes. I mean, we know over 1 million. And now what? And very quickly, in short order, they brought them back. I'd say almost untouched.
I was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked that it was new passes, same as old passes, only you have to make a reservation. I was just like, well, I think that they must have run the numbers and, kind of got addicted to the constant stream of revenue from the passes.
Yep. I mean, I've been tweeting about this like a crazy person, but first, this is very quick. And somebody tweeted out Attractions 360, something like that. If the park yesterday, 10-minute waits everywhere. You don't want that in your park. You want your park with at least 20, 30, 40-minute waits on attraction. We're talking like Peter Pan having a 20-minute wait. You don't want, you know what that's like. That's an abandoned park on a Sunday in August. No, they don't want that. There's a huge opportunity cost where they would much rather have the park not slam, but they would want to have a healthy amount of people in there spending money. So here are my predictions. I think this is what has happened with the government closure is devastating to Disneyland. Nothing that we've ever seen. And in regard, I don't want to full screen. Sorry. It's devastating towards Disney. I think a lot of people are changing their habits. I mean, you're probably like, am I going to get one? I don't know. I'm going to the park next Tuesday as a guest of an employee. So again, I'm going and I don't have to pay, but I think I'm definitely going to be reconsidering. I mean, certainly in the last year and a half since I haven't been to Disneyland, it's been almost 2 years since I've been to Disneyland. I think the last time I went was November 2019. But I've certainly, thought a lot about how I, would consume Disneyland, on a regular basis, because I've lived without it now for 20 months. And it's like, considering the fact that I've probably been 1,000 times, no joke. I don't, there's not enough there to get me, to spend, 2 or 3 hours each way, because I live. So here's the thing. Here's a joke that I half jokingly say to people. Is that I live in Burbank. My house is literally 2 miles from the airport. I feel like in some ways it's actually easier for me to get an Uber to Burbank Airport in 5 minutes, get on a Southwest flight to Orlando, and go to Universal Studios Orlando, and maybe have a better time. Yeah, it takes a while to get into Disney Universal Studios, believe me. But I will say, I agree with you. I think over 1 million people went through a detox period with no Disney. They were addicted, folks. You were addicted. Yeah. How many people are? And I don't say that in a funny way. It's like, now I can do other things. Or and what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, hey, yeah, I kind of don't really need one. My friends don't really have one anymore. And I think it's going to be a really big deal. I think, it's my prediction, you're going to see the park reservation system go away. They're going to eliminate all those little 2-6. No, they need to get rid of any friction. They're going to be begging annual pass holders to come back. Begging. Or they're going to see mass layoffs again because there's so much overhead in those parks that you need to have the parks filled at all times. I mean, back in the 90s, you'd have maybe 500 administration officials, maybe, probably. Now, it's several thousands of, high-paying jobs, and they need people in the park spending money. I think this is going to be, and look, some people, I know, like Dave Cobb's pretty happy about it, and he thinks it's good and all that, and I've been like kind of in the wings, like I write these really long responses and I don't say anything, but it's like, I think the gravity of the situation is like, and 50% of people not renewing, maybe even generous. It may be generous. I mean, when you look at the numbers, like, oh, just pay to go whenever I feel like it for $100.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Honestly, I don't think that I would go enough to justify spending $60 a month on an annual pass.
Yeah. So look, very interesting to see. I think this is, and I think they're going to see people being able to just, everything's going to be unblocked, green all days for at least for the while. We'll see how it goes. We got to move on to the next topic though. We have 2 guests waiting in the wings. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just very passionate about annual pass holders for some reason. For this topic, we actually have Dave Hall. Come on down, Dave. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be there. Hey, Dave.
Rookie mistake. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Welcome to the show. Yeah, you're a friend of TETV. You were one of our pioneers on the Sorry About to Graduate College. So that you're part of the alumni. Great to have you back. And despite I could talk about that annual pass situation for another hour, but we're not. Other big news happened. I mean, there's been so much big news, right? Walt Disney Imagineering, Disney Parks and Resorts has announced that they are relocating thousands of jobs to Lake Nona, California to Florida. Sorry, I don't know why this cracked me up so much. They're moving that to Florida. And, we're going to talk about that a little bit. And we also know that, you have a little bit of resources to share. But first, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Dave? For those that may not know the infamous Dave Hall.
Hi, I'm Dave. Currently working as a BIM coordinator for Scenario in Orlando. Hello, thank you. I do a lot of, I was on the original, So You're About to Graduate College with Patrick. Back when before there even was a TETV, and it was just this show and that show. And then, TETV kind of all came from that. I owe none of that to me. I was just a host that showed up once a week. So it was a lot of fun, but decided to kind of pull back and start what you guys kind of brought me on here for. So I run a resource called themedentertainmentjobs.com. And actually next week we will be celebrating our 2-year anniversary. 2 years ago was kind of when I was right after I got my first job in the industry. And what I had been doing before I got that job was, going through all of the different company websites from the TEA member directory list and looking at every single individual website and seeing if they had any jobs. And when I got my first job, thought, hey, maybe there's lots of people who could use this, all this information that I've been looking up myself. So bought a really simple WordPress site. I know nothing about web design, so it's very, very bare bones, very utilitarian. And it's just, straight up links to all the companies that I'm aware of and all the jobs that I'm aware of. And it started out just as Orlando. The first day I launched, Bryn Gellerman reached out to me and said, hey, are you going to do LA? And I said, well, we'll see how much work Orlando is. Probably not. And she goes, okay, let me do LA. And so the two of us have operated that for about a year until the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, I was having the problem. I have a problem solving problem. So anytime I run into an issue that I think other people might have, I throw a resource up because I think it's useful. So that was when all the events started going digital, and I couldn't keep track of when things were, where things were. So I started the events calendar. And, it's becoming less useful as everything starts to go back in person, but I update it when I can. And then actually inspired by all of you said, at the top of the show, you've had how many volunteers help you guys over the last year? Yeah. Just seeing the number of volunteers willing to help you guys, I figured, hey, maybe somebody would be willing to help me expand the job board. So started developing some systems and asking people to help. And now we have West Coast job, Europe jobs, Western US, Florida. You can see all of them. More are coming too, as I start getting more people to help me populate them. I have a handful of volunteers as well that are helping me out. And then how this ties in, let me finally get to it. The guidebook. So I've been kind of meaning to, when I talk to new people in the industry, I tell them, there is no guidebook to get into this industry. It's, you got to kind of figure it out. Everyone's figured it out. But there are a lot of things that we all kind of know in the industry that we have been told and passed down. And it's been an oral tradition. There's not anywhere you can Google it. So I'm trying to make a place you can Google it. But because of the announcement of Disney moving all of their people to Orlando, or attempting to, I decided to start there. I live in Orlando. I know a lot of people who live in Orlando. And I'd love to just be able to get all of those resources and help ease the stress of all of those people who might have to move to Orlando here in the next few months. And then it's a permanent resource for all people who are moving to Orlando in our industry, because there's been a lot over the years and there will be more and more as we go. So right now there's a placeholder up there. I don't have a lot of good information yet, but I'm working on, collecting all of the information from everyone. So if you live in Orlando and have great advice to give, or you are moving to Orlando or have moved recently, I'd love to hear all of the things that you've worried about, all the things that gave you a huge headache, so that I can hopefully solve those for anybody moving forward. Kind of put it all in one spot.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I know a lot of people that are affected by this big move, and they're very anxious and very worried, and it's all just very shocking and upsetting. And I think that this is probably going to put a lot of people at ease, for sure.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, to have to uproot your family and your roots and move all the way across the country for a job is not ideal. But us Floridians are a welcoming group, especially here in themed entertainment. I know personally, when Patrick was one of the first people I talked to before I even moved, everyone I've ever talked to in our industry, especially in Orlando, have gone all out of their way and given me the time. So I just try to at least do that part and ease as much of the stress as possible for everyone.
And look, you're still alive and you live in Orlando, so you survived.
Yeah.
The heat hasn't
I've
killed
only
you.
been through it. People always worry about the gators, but you got to watch out for the fire ants. That's the real thing.
Oh, great. That's something I didn't know. Make sure you put that in the guide.
I will.
I will say, so I want to kind of talk about moving to Orlando, but this is what happened before Dave moved to Orlando, before and after, folks.
Oh, jeez. That was one of the first episodes of So You're About to Graduate College.
Yeah, no, you were already here, but me and you are in a fight to the long hair competition. We've seen each other in person since then.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, Andy. And no, it's great. Look, I'm letting it roll. Until somebody who wants to pay me says you can't have it anymore. But I don't think that's any. We know the Disney look guidelines don't matter anymore. So nor have they ever really. Now, so that look at this. You have aged like a fine wine over the past year.
Yeah, I definitely don't get carded nearly as much as I used to.
So, Dave, I'd love thank you for putting all those resources together. And of course, I think in the very beginning I said, hey, why don't we combine your thing with TTV? And you said, you know what? No, and I respect that. But we're always welcome to support you as much as we can. And of course, Slice that are out there. And I'd love to just, you're living in Orlando. You came from, was it Wisconsin? I forget where you came from originally.
Well, Illinois.
Illinois. Okay. That's bordering state. So I'm kind of like you, Dave. I've only experienced welcoming people and to Orlando. I grew up in Orange County, California. I've lived in LA. I've done it all. And then I moved here. I self-relocated about 8 years ago. And, when the press hit out there, a lot of people were really scared. And so all I can do is share my perspective. From my perspective look, I'm a white guy trying to make it in the business. I was very successful to do that, which is great. But the Orlando is not this like deep red, pitchfork, fire and brimstone place. So like when I saw people kind of like, oh my God, I got to go, like, it's really I think it's quite inclusive, where the fourth per capita gay population, LGBTQ plus population in America, that's behind like 3 other places and not including LA. Like we're way ahead of LA in that. Everybody that comes here, or a lot of people come here to try to make it and to be in entertainment or to be, and doing something interesting. So it's a ton of people that aren't even from here, which is actually pretty unique. And very progressive for those of you that might be worried about that. This is not a political show, but you turn on the news and you see whatever DeSantis is doing, whatever he's doing and whatever. But I don't really feel that in Orlando. We're kind of in this bubble of welcoming artists and very diverse. And I like you said, Dave, you really started off with the right saying of like, it sucks to move your family. It sucks to uproot. It sucks if moving from LA, if you're in this business and maybe you have other options like, oh, I can work in film, I can work in TV, I can work here, there, and to come to Orlando and maybe you have to, your only options may be themed entertainment. That can be really scary. I want to respect that. And there's people who have families that maybe your partner or your significant other or spouse may be in entertainment and they can't uproot and move here. I completely respect that. And my sincere condolences, my sincere love goes out to you. But I don't want anybody out there worried about moving here for reasons that maybe, aren't true. Like, look, weather sucks compared to LA. Okay. You can't beat LA. I was in Newport, or I was in Huntington Beach, and it was 70 degrees 2 weeks ago at 7:00 at night. I get it. I can't compare that to Orlando, but everything else, I think people will find that they can find what they want here in Orlando, which is why you have that great guidebook.
Yeah, it's not my chair, not my problem. Like you said, it sucks, and there's a lot of things I can't control, but I'm going to try to do anything that I can. If I see a problem that I have the ability to help with, I will. So, you can't do anything about a lot of this stuff, but for everything that you can, any little bit, hopefully helps. So.
And any commentary? I mean, feel free to go negative if you want about this whole situation. And I mean, honestly, selfishly, for people in Orlando, we're kind of like, we want to welcome everybody with open arms. We want this to be the hot spot for themed entertainment. We know Universal Creative's here. We know there's a lot of creative facilities here. There's fabrication. We want to welcome everybody with open arms. But we obviously know, you're in LA. You have your finger on the pulse of people. What say you?
Well, I would, like I was telling Dave before the show, I applied for a job at Imagineering a few months ago, and I didn't get it. And now I feel sort of relieved that I didn't get it, because I probably would have been one of those people that was forced to make a hard decision. Do I, break the lease on my studio and my house and just uproot everything and move to Florida to follow the dream? And like, I'm not sure what I would have done. And I certainly don't envy all the people that are forced to make that decision right now. I have a lot of friends that are in that position. And like you've said, Patrick, I think a lot of people are also in denial about it. And, are still kind of like, oh, well, my position is important enough or because of this reason or that reason, or I'm working on an Asia portfolio or something like that, I'm not going to have to move. And it's like, you will eventually, I think like everything but like film and television production is probably going to end up moving to Florida for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is taxes.
Yep. Well, and we know, you look at any Marvel film, made in Atlanta, made in Vancouver. Like, this is happening in other segments. It's kind of interesting. It's really just solidifying that Orlando is the themed entertainment capital in all regards, including design. So
yeah, like I said before, I spent the whole summer here with Jason in the studio, and we were sitting here, and when the news broke, we were working on a show, and we reeled with the realization of like, this is not only the end of an era, but it's going to cause a major shift in the center of gravity of our industry from Southern California to Central Florida. Once Disney moves, with their thousands of employees and, access to vendors, that's like, it's with Universal, the Universal Creative moved to Florida, and now Disney and Imagineering and Parks and Resorts and everybody moving to Florida. It's like, it sort of doesn't matter where you are now in the world as a designer or vendor or, creative, type like me, like I do music and sound design. And I've worked for Disney and Universal, and it's just like, I know that I think what's going to happen more often is that, people like David Kniper, who's another composer, I know that Universal uses him a lot because he's in Florida. He's based in Florida. So, it's like, I'm not saying I'm going to move to Florida, and like, that's like a last resort, kind of, but, certainly the center of gravity of the industry is going to be fully shifted permanently.
Yeah. And what I'll add to that is like, first, if anybody's out there right now and they're scared, they're worried, shoot me a DM, shoot me a LinkedIn message. I'll happily just talk to you about my experience in LA from my perspective, or from Orlando from my perspective. I love Orlando, so I'm a big cheerleader of it. Love it. I grew up in Orange County, LA. When I kind of land in LA and Orange County, I have anxiety because of how crowded it is now. But like, pros and cons to any place, and but I just want to provide information. But one other thing that I think you're going to see is you're going to see maybe a generation of people that may try to stay in LA, but any new talent, you're moving to Orlando at that point, right? You're not going to do in LA.
That's the conversation I've been having too. It's just like, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not going to say I'm at the end of my career, but I'm certainly not at the beginning. I would definitely suggest, if I, teach any classes for any of the schools out there, again, and people ask me like, well, how do I break in the industry? I'm like, well, I think, starting in 2022 or 2023, best to move to Orlando, certainly if you want to get started at one of the major vendors like Scenario or, American Scenic or Lexington or Nassau or, AOA or any of the other, emerging companies that are going to be the major vendors for a downsized Imagineering and, leaner Universal Creative. I mean, I think that Imagineering is probably going to downsize to the point where, like Universal Creative, they're just going to be basically a construction management company.
We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. It is a very interesting time with Epic Universe kind of coming back online, but not staffed up to the way they were. I think it's going to be the freelancer and the vendors, really. We'll see how it goes. Well, that's the biggest news to rock our industry. The annual pass program. No, the move of Walt Disney Imagineering is huge. And we know there's other news going on. We know that we're in the middle. In Florida, we're in the middle of a fourth, fifth, whatever wave. And look, we're not doctors. I'm not a doctor. Andy's not a doctor. Dave's not a doctor. And but we do know a really great one who's in the wings. We're going to bring you on, Dr. Isaiah Cochran MD.
He's a real doctor.
A real doctor. So we've had, I want to be honest with you, Isaiah. Can I call you Isaiah? Or do you want me to call you doctor? I'm sorry. I'm so used to calling
Isaiah's fine.
Okay. Dr. Isaiah. I want you to know that I personally know people who came to me and said, hey, I was really worried about the vaccine until I saw your show where, Dr. Isaiah broke it all down and they really made me feel better about it. So I really appreciate you doing that several months ago. And we told you we'd have you come back. And
feels like several years ago.
I know it does. We wanted you to come back and we say, hey, can you come back when we need an update and just to be our resident doctor? And you said you would, and we really appreciate that. And The vaccine rollout was going swimmingly. COVID seemed to be on the ropes. Cases were so low everywhere. And then we know the Delta variant emerged, and we have had quite a lot of challenges here. And we wanted to bring you on to kind of get the lay of the land. Dave, do you want to stay for this, or do you want us to let you go? Let us know.
I mean, if you guys just want to look at my face while we talk, that's fine. I'm not going to have much to contribute. So,
okay. I'll let you. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Bye, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Sorry, I'm a little rusty in my hosting abilities. We're back live, folks, coast to coast with Dr. Isaiah Cochran. So people are out there are. I kind of see it. I see a lot of interesting things because I have friends in California. I have friends in Florida. I have friends that I just came back. I went to Las Vegas last weekend. I'm vaccinated, wear a mask when it was appropriate, all that. Don't have COVID. And we have different points of view, different perspectives. We know there's like some political stuff out there with DeSantis, and we don't have to get into politics, but what would you tell people? What's your number one message, and what is the lay of the land with the Delta variant?
So the number one thing I would say is get vaccinated. There's not much more to add to that. I will say, unfortunately, due to our climate with everything in our country right now, it does get political. So I will add that I believe that people should be following the recommendations from individuals who are much more experienced than myself. I mean, we're talking about people who have been, such as Dr. Fauci, who has been doing this for years and years and years. And unfortunately, it's been quite hurtful to those in the medical community who are working on the front line and doing the best that we can to take care of everybody, to see somebody who has worked so hard to not only focusing on COVID, but he has been studying viruses for years and years and working on treatments for these things. And he helped with this. And it's quite unfortunate that things have been politicized so much. So with that being said, no matter what you're hearing politically, I will tell you that there are doctors on both sides of the aisle and in between who are vaccinated and who are urging their patients to get vaccinated. In terms of Florida, things are a lot worse here overall than they actually were even back last year, because last year it was really centered in Miami and the counties down there where we had a lot of cases. Now, we did have high numbers in July last year and August. If you remember on the news, we were, on the headlines. But I will tell you that in other places like Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Daytona, where I'm a resident, it's not a resident physician. It wasn't quite as high as it is now. And so with that being said, it is not a joke. Unfortunately, there are more individuals who are between 20 and 50 who are in the hospital now. And I will tell you that many of those individuals are unvaccinated people. It's not made up. Many of them are just unvaccinated. So I just really urge folks to get vaccinated. So that way, number one, you don't end up, having to go to the hospital. Number two, if you do get COVID, your case will be a lot less severe. And number three, in order for us to really get over this and get back to how things were, but even better, hopefully, than how things were before, we need to make sure that we do get vaccinated, because the longer this goes on, the more chance there is that we'll have mutations. And we don't want that to happen. We've already had mutations, but we could have more and more.
Yeah. I mean, what's your advice to somebody who's thinking about taking their family to vacation in Orlando? They're going to spend thousands of dollars. And they're, say they're vaccinated, they're fully vaccinated. What should they be worried about, if anything, to go to a theme park vacation right now?
So I would say if you are vaccinated, then to be honest with you, follow the recommendations. If you're indoors, wear your mask. But even if you get COVID, the likelihood of it being a severe case is very low. The CDC recently released something, I think it was either on Friday or even as late as or as recent as today, that said 99.99% of people who are vaccinated, even if they get the case, it's not severe. What do we mean? We're not saying that this is 100% and you're not going to get COVID. You can still get COVID even with the vaccine. What we're saying is the likelihood of you having to go into the hospital and require supplemental oxygen, require intubation, so that means being put on a vent and whatnot, is very, very, very low unless you have a lot of comorbidities. And even individuals who have comorbidities, when they've gotten the vaccine, we see that they've done all right. It's individuals who are not getting vaccinated. And I will say, and I'm not trying to be mean towards anybody, but it is kind of upsetting when people point out the one in a million case. Well, I know somebody who was vaccinated and very young and healthy. Of course. I mean, of course there's going to be cases like that, but I can share with you that I'm currently actually on an inpatient rotation, and I have lots of folks that are on vents. Our hospital is at capacity. So what does that mean? When you are vaccinated, you're not only helping to not spread this virus, you're also allowing for there to be a lower chance of more people admitted to the hospital, because you have to remember that other people still have other problems. There's still people having strokes. There's still people having heart attacks. And when we're at capacity with COVID patients, these other patients, there's not as many beds available for patients. So you have to think about the fact that it's not just COVID that's going on in the hospital. There's a lot of other things. So we really should unite. This shouldn't be a source of us fighting. It should be a chance for us to unite. And I have been very happy with what the theme parks have done. I know in Orlando, some people debated whether or not the park should be open. But when I came on the show last time, I stated that I was very happy with how Disney and Universal really mandated masks. And now I've been happy with the steps that Disney has taken. And I'm hoping that Universal takes some of those steps too. And I'm sure that they will. But I've been happy with the fact that at the very least, Universal and Disney are asking for individuals when indoors to wear masks. I mean, it's just common courtesy, even if you're vaccinated.
What do you think about Disney and Universal, the theme parks, requiring proof of vaccination for admission?
Everybody, please.
I don't, and let me just preface this with saying, I don't think it's taking away anybody's freedom. I mean, think about it this way. We get childhood immunizations. My mom is 71, and she was talking to me about the polio vaccination because she lived through it. And she was like, Isaiah, it wasn't political. They came to people's schools and vaccinated. Nobody was like, oh my God, everybody got it. I mean, everybody got it. And just to show you how, I don't want to make things political, but obviously there's a divide where people are thinking that people on the left want it and people on the right don't. That's not true, because I know people on the right who have gotten it, and I know people on the left who do not want it. I'll also say that maybe one of the most famous people on the right now, Mitch McConnell, spoke about the polio epidemic and said, listen, this is a vaccine that was important. This is why getting the COVID-19 vaccine is important. It's to protect yourself and everybody else. We all want to get back to where we were before, and we got a little taste of it this summer, and we can get back there again, in a few months probably. But if we keep dragging it out, then it's going to take longer.
So, I mean, I have some comments. So first, we know that people are completely needlessly dying right now. There's no reason to die in 2021 in August in America, which is also really frustrating, of COVID-19. Get vaccinated. It tremendously drops your chances. And we know that there have been no long-term side effects that have been seen from the vaccine, except not getting COVID, or most likely not getting COVID. And, I've read this, and feel free to correct me. That's why we have a doctor here. The first signs of any sort of long-term issues with the vaccine are seen within the first 2 to 3 months. So there's not this weird, hey, you have an implant of zombification, and 5 years from now you're going to be a zombie. That's not backed up by any sort of science, medical science of any kind. Can you comment on that, or is that correct? Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Or
The first thing that I want to say to everybody is that we have this wonderful thing called the internet. So if you really want to do real research, and stop saying that you've done research, real research, you will see that they have been working on mRNA vaccines for a long period of time. That is why when COVID happened, they were able to roll it out so quickly. Now, this specific vaccine, were they working on it? No, but they were working on the idea of mRNA vaccine. So the actual principle of using mRNA is not new. It's not new. And that's one thing I've told a lot of people, and I've spoken with my patients about it. And I can say that on the outpatient setting, for patients I have in the clinic, I've been able to get quite a few people vaccinated when I've talked to them about, and I've shown them things and articles. And they, at the end of the day, most people want to be respectful of people around them. But when we have all this hearsay and people get scared, and I'm not faulting them, because really there was a lot of things going on. When it comes to side effects, I will tell you this. We all get we all take medications, we all get vaccines, and with anything, there can be a side effect. But the likelihood of you having a long-term side effect is very low. And if you don't believe me, again, I challenge you to go. CDC is a very good resource. And I know even now some people are not believing the CDC, but you can actually, if you want to really get into nitty-gritty science, you can find articles that speak about the COVID-19 vaccinations. And I really think that should help you guys feel a little bit better. But I also want to tell you that one of the biggest things, and this is not to get off topic, but I know that people always say the CDC is always changing their guidelines. I'm going to be honest with everybody. That's how science and medicine works. We react to what we see going on. And, when the pandemic started, we didn't know everything about COVID, but we learned more. And that's what science is. We're always learning. And so I just ask for people to be patient with us, but we're all doing the best that we can to take care of everybody. I can tell you that day in and day out, people are out there doing the best they can. So help us out a little bit in the hospitals, because we're definitely overrun right now.
Yeah. Well, even if people are uncomfortable with the mRNA, Johnson & Johnson is more traditional, right? Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm. It is. It is more traditional.
And so Dr. Isaiah, if I would have told you in, let's just say March 2020, COVID's now, we're locked down. If I said, we're going to have a vaccine within less than a year, and it's going to be 95% efficacy, would you have believed me?
I would have said, I wouldn't have been shocked, because I know that there's a lot of research going on around this stuff. I'm not shocked. I'm happy.
Okay, good. I was going to say, because a lot of people out there, and look, I'm going to tell this slightly, but they say, they pray for things. If you are praying for a great solution, here it is, folks, right? Here it is. This is, if people believe in, the gods and all that kind of stuff, this could be God preventing you. Getting a vaccine is quick. So there's just a lot of running. There's all these arguments I see of, no, I don't need that. I'm going to have God protect you. I think if, God's protecting you with a vaccine, I would hope that more and more people are going to get it. And so so with that, really appreciate you talking vaccines and you're sharing your experience. DeSantis, he's been very politicizing a figure. I think that he was generally pretty transparent during the COVID-19 process. I actually followed it pretty closely. I'm as left as they come, but I got to give credit where credit's due. He was saying, hey, I'm following the science and this is where we're at. Here's where we are right now. He is now saying that this is a seasonal thing that's happening right now. And we have seen in the past week that the cases have kind of maybe look like they could be plateauing. Are there any signs out there that we're getting out of this current surge that we know is insane? CJ, did we ever pull that the thing I asked you to? No, it was just the chart that showcased. There we go. Maybe yes. Okay, there we go. So this is what we had last summer, right? I'll just kind of walk people through it, right? We were going into mid-July. This is right when Disney World opened, at the first peak that we had, and DeSantis said last year, hey, we're in a COVID spike. It's just for the summer. We're not changing everything. We're reopening. And then we had the big plummet. Then we had another quote unquote seasonal thing that happened with a huge spike in January. And this is actually happening across the entire world. You can look at maps from any sort of country, even countries that don't even really celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving, which was kind of weird to me. I was looking at this a while back. And then we saw the seasonal kind of go back down. We saw the vaccines hit. We saw us get to very, very low cases in Florida all the way up until about, I think it was May, June. And then there we go. We see the summer spike of July 4th all the way where we are today, which is unprecedented, like you said, all the way through Central Florida. And where do we go? Where do you think we're going to go from here? Where are we at?
And what you're seeing there, like from December 29th, because I received my first vaccine like December 20th, because healthcare providers received ours pretty early on. So what you see is like the rollout of the vaccines, like you stated. And then we get to, and during this time, as more and more people are getting vaccinated, the virus is still around. So now it's trying to mutate and starting to mutate. And we reached this point there, May 26th. And, in our minds, it's like we're done and we're over it. But the scientists and people kept saying, we have to get more people vaccinated because there will be a mutation. But then you see this, excuse me, you see this spike here. And I mean, that's everything that we have in front of us is delayed by a few weeks to maybe a month and a half. So this spike is, of course, the unvaccinated people, right? So all of us are protected, you know, and we have this spike here. Where do I think we're going? I think we're going to go up if people don't get vaccinated. And we're going to, I mean, at some point we'll plateau because then everybody will have had. I mean, but I don't want to hit that point. I don't want to hit the point where everybody has gotten it. And then that's why we plateau. I'd rather see a downturn because now we're getting more and more people vaccinated, which I will say over the last week and a half in Florida and in other states that have had lower vaccination rates, the numbers have gone up. I think that people are starting to say, I will say, I understand some people are on edge, and like this, what we're going through now. And I almost think that little taste of freedom and now realizing like, oh, I also have to do my part in this too, is getting more people. Of course, there's going to be some folks who don't get vaccinated, but there's going to be more and more people, I do believe, that will be vaccinated. So my hope is that by the end of September, we are really seeing a kind of downward turn like we saw last fall. And it's my hope that we stay there, that we don't have another huge spike. And if the CDC says we need a booster, I hope everybody just says, okay, I'm going to go get my booster. I hope it's not another big thing.
I want it now, by the way. Give it to me now. I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, my housemate and I were talking just last night about like, should we try to sneak another dose somehow? Like go to CVS and be like, oh, I'm brand new.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a really remarkable thing. Well, that kind of leads to the next question. So you mentioned an interesting thing about we are either going to reach the point where everybody gets COVID, but we know how big of a hindrance that's going to be on our hospitals. So it's not a way to go about things. And we know that there are kids and people under 12 or people that have a bad reaction to the vaccines. Like, look, I wanted to say, we know that people under 12 are not able to get vaccinated right now. And our heart goes out to all those people. Also people who have had bad reactions. I've had people who say to me, hey, I've had a bad reaction to a vaccine before, so I'm very hesitant. Very sorry that you're in that spot. And I'm trying to do everything I can to convince people who are normally have no adverse reaction to vaccines, are healthy, are over 12, to just get her done. Yep. Get it done, folks. What do we need to do? Now we're kind of, I am shocked that although maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but that the Trump vaccine, we could have called it the Trump vaccine, whatever we need to call it, happened in record time, Operation Warp Speed. And I thought everybody was just clamoring to get this vaccine. And then to hear, oh, wait, you guys don't want this thing that can make it so you don't die? I don't know how to even, I don't know. I'm a very scientific-minded person, so maybe that's it. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to die. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to spread it. I want it to be done. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that was me rambling a little bit. So Andy, any other questions for Isaiah before we kind of let him have his final word, as he should always get, as he is hopefully we're just coughing. None of us have COVID. We're just coughing for no reason. Andy, what do you think?
We're coughing here. I'm coughing here because we're getting some of the smoke from the wildfires today.
Okay.
Excuse me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, personally, I'm you talk about hopefully in September we're going to see a downward trend and maybe hit the bottom. I'm worried about Halloween events personally. Yeah. And also worried about IAPA in November, our industry event, the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. And I worry that, even if people from Europe and Asia are allowed to come with full vaccinations, I worry that people may just not come at all. I'd hate to see our industry suffer in that way. And we need to get things back in business and back, international trade starting up again, with attractions and things like that. I think that's really important. But with IAPA Asia being canceled this last week, it made me really nervous for IAPA in November. But November feels really, really far off for me right now, considering, how much happens in any given week or month.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to comment, I've heard from sources that IAPA is happening. There is no not happening.
I'm not concerned whether it's happening or not. It's going to happen for sure. But like, is anyone going to come?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, for sure. Well, that's, I'll send a question to you, Isaiah. Like somebody posted on Twitter, it was like actually the theme park duo. They said, look, like, should I cancel my trip to Halloween Horror Nights? I have a 3-year-old at home. What do I do? We're vaccinated. Any comment on people who are trying to figure out their travel plans for Halloween? What is your, and by the way, you are famous this year in Halloween Horror Nights in the tribute store. You have I was going to pull it, but I didn't, but you have your face in the immortalized on that banner.
Michael wanted me to give him a shout out. So I have to. Michael Artwell, my partner, who is actually working nights this week to get ready for HHN, working on the tribute store. So he is really excited about HHN this year.
I am too.
So,
for reasons I can't say.
Yeah.
all be revealed.
Yeah. Well, and completely unrelated, Andy, you have admitted to you were part of the Marathon of Mayhem show a couple years ago, unrelated to what you're talking about right now. The critically acclaimed. So, Isaiah, in all seriousness, people have kids at home. They're scared. Like, look, they did their part. They got vaccinated. And now they're trying to figure out how to make sense of life when they have a child at home and not giving, any comments on like what happens when somebody has a breakthrough infection or what they should be trying to do to stay safe out there in this crazy world?
It is unfortunate for those who have gotten vaccinated and, they're still having to quote unquote restrict what they're doing, because one of the things that led people to getting the vaccine, of course, protecting others, but also being able to kind of have some sense of normalcy again. I will say that if you have a child under 12, you have to be a little bit more careful right now until we see the Delta, spread go down. Do I think you should cancel your trip? I will tell you, whatever decision you make, follow the guidelines and do what you think is best for your child. A 3-year-old, if they get COVID, I will tell you here in Florida, the rates of, I think it's 20% it's gone up by 20% in individuals under 12. So we're seeing a lot more young individuals become infected with COVID, and some of it is pretty bad. I would tell you to be careful. I would say if you have the ability, if you want to come badly and you've already gotten your tickets and you're ready to come, you might want to quarantine if you're able to. I don't know if somebody else can watch a 3-year-old, and I know that's not a choice for everybody, but you might want to be away from them for a little bit. And I know as a 3-year-old, you don't always want to be away from a young kid like that. So unless this comes back down, you have to be very cautious, because you might not spread it to them at all. But being vaccinated does protect you. So one thing I will say is if you want to come, the vaccine is key, and then wearing a mask. That would really help.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat where like, me and my wife, we usually have frequent fair passes. We go all the time, but like, if you're like in a huge crowd of people indoors and no one's wearing masks, that can get a little dicey. We've talked about it before. Like some people don't, like if you walk by, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, because my information may be a little invalid since the Delta variant, but like I always thought that, you being in a restaurant unmasked for, over an hour and a half with a person in the booth right behind you was pretty risky. Being in a bar adjacent to people for an hour plus, potentially with people being exposed around you, is very risky. We talked about this pretty lengthy last time, right? We talked about it for an hour and a half of being in a queue. Now we're talking probably where masks are not enforced if you're at Universal, at least right now. And what's the safety line right now? I feel fine right now going to a park. I would wear my mask indoors. At Disney, I'd feel completely safe at Disney right now. Not even a problem wearing a mask. In fact, I was at Disney a few weeks ago, and it was before the mask mandate came. I went into Rise of the Resistance queue. I threw a mask on. I'm like, look, I don't know not all these people are vaccinated. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to wear it. Not going to do that. Like what? And that's going to be enough for me to feel better about it. What is your advice for people who are going to the parks and maybe going to a Universal where there aren't really quite, like you said, maybe not yet enforcement of that? What's the best way to stay safe? And when maybe there aren't any guidelines in place quite yet?
Yeah. Universal is, recommending mask indoors. So mask indoors. I mean, for me, to be honest with you, for me, wearing the mask at this point, very often, even before COVID, when you went into rooms where patients, and I think I brought this up last time, but when you go into rooms where people have respiratory infection, or you have to put on a mask. And so we don't have to wear them all the time in the hospital. Like before COVID, depending on what you do, surgeons, of course, are used to wearing masks all the time, but we still had to wear a mask more often than people who are not in healthcare. And that's part of the job. But I'll tell you at this point, it's nice to not wear the mask, but when I go to the gym, I've gone back to wearing my mask again because I did it for so many months. So I'm like, well, we're back, but I'm doing it because, I've gotten tested maybe twice in the last few weeks because I am working with COVID patients directly, and I want to know that I'm not bringing it home and spreading to others. But I still don't know. I wear my mask just in case because I don't know if maybe I'm positive somehow. And I don't, and even though I've had a recent negative test last week, I want to make sure I'm not spreading it. But also at the same time, I want to protect myself too. Even though I do believe in the vaccine, I need to make sure that I'm protecting myself, and taking those measures is very important. So with that being said, whether you're vaccinated or not, I would suggest you wear a mask indoors. It's up to you. If you're vaccinated, the likelihood of you getting I'll say it again, if you go indoors and you just can't wear a mask anymore, the fact that you have the vaccine protects you a whole lot. But that is all the more reason why those of you who are not vaccinated really need to just realize that being vaccinated is a quick shot, twice and you're done, or once, depending on which one you get.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to Disneyland next Tuesday, and even if they hadn't brought the masks back, the mandates, I guarantee you I would have worn a mask indoors and outdoors. And when I'm probably going to go to Florida in October for the Halloween activities, and masks mandated or not, you bet I'm going to be wearing a mask indoors and outdoors.
Hopefully it'll be different then. We'll see. We're going to stay tuned. But you know what? Honestly, Dr. Isaiah Cochran,
thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming on to the show. Yes. I think the main message is get vaccinated, folks.
Get vaccinated.
Search on the internet, but make sure you check your sources. If you're looking at a peer-reviewed journal, great. If you're looking at a Yahoo, not Yahoo News, but like a crazy person out there that has an agenda, like that's not research, right? So listen to the doctors, listen to the experts, and there's no reason. I don't understand why this has been politicized. I think it's pretty cynical. It's really weird. It's kind of weird that it got cynical. Like, and I will say, at least, DeSantis has never said don't get a vaccine. He says that, number one, and we know that the deaths increased dramatically because 80% of our elders are over 65. It's like 80% got vaccinated. What else do you need, folks? They focused on people who are vulnerable, but now with the Delta variant, everyone's vulnerable. So we need to do our part. And if you are unvaccinated, you are really putting yourself and others at risk. And there's no reason for it. It's the easiest thing to do. Go to Google vaccine. You'll get it immediately. I had it. Look, I was nervous too. It was weird. I don't like needles. I did it, got it done, and then now here's where we are today. Sign me up for the booster. Just put it in the water. I don't care. Just get it out there. I want to move on with this as a society. Andy, any other final words before we throw it to Isaiah for a final thought?
No, I really appreciate all your time and experience and expertise in sharing that with us. And, I hope, and I'm sure our audience appreciates it too.
Thank you. And again, I'll just say thank you all for having me on. I appreciate it because I'm not on here to be political. I'm just on here to make sure that everybody is able to continue to enjoy theme parks, because I know that we have a lot of good things coming, especially acutely with HHN. But then, we have a new park on the horizon with Universal in a few years. And it is my hope we're still not dragging this out then. I hope we're done with it by then. So I know that a lot of people want to really travel safely again, because that would be nice. So please get vaccinated.
All right.
Well, thank you again so much.
Thanks, Isaiah, and everybody from all of us. Big shout out to CJ in the studio. Thank you, CJ. CJ, we appreciate you, and we appreciate that all you do. Go ahead and take us home.
Take us home. All right. Thank you, Patrick. It wouldn't be us back live if Patrick wasn't putting me on the spot from the producer studio. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode. We've got a lot of exciting content in the works. As Patrick mentioned back at the beginning of the episode, we're looking to do a lot of behind-the-scenes walkthroughs. So if you know of any experiences coming out, or things that could use a platform to get out a behind the scenes tour, definitely message us on all our social media platforms. We're always looking for new and exciting content to bring you guys. So with that, I'm going to close us out here. Patrick, Andy, any final things?
Well, thanks everybody. See you next
Good to
time.
be back.